Hi folks, thanks for joining me for this week's river tutorial. A few weeks back I seen a fly on Facebook tied by John Tyzak. Many of the competition guys will know who he is. He's been very successful on the river circuit over the years and world and European level actually. But he tied a little fly and it was a combination of a jingler and a clink hammer. And I thought, oh, I've got to get a few of them in my box. And while I was doing it, I just thought I would share how I've tied it with you. So without further ado, let's get into it. The hook in the vise then is a Hanak H330 barbless hook. This one's at size 10. It's on a medium wire and it's a bronze hook. The thread I'm going to be using today is from Fish On, and it's the Ultimate Tying Silk, and it's in black. I think John material list said brown, but I don't have any brown, so I'm just using the black. Now, as always, I'm going to get a little touch of super glue onto the shank of the hook, and this just stops the body rotation. And there's going to be quite a lot going on with this fly, so you don't want your thread slipping around the shank. You want it down firmly, and wax just won't cut it. So I'm going to bring my thread all the way down the shank to the bend, and I'm going to stop it there and remove my waste. Okay, for the tail of this fly, and I'm just going to adjust it slightly in the vise. I'm going to be using some Coq De Leon. I've got a strand off here that I'm working with, and I'm going to take about a half a dozen fibres, maybe less. You don't need to be too pedantic with it. And what I want is it's an emergent pattern. I don't want it a big long tail, maybe about a little over a centimetre. So I'm going to grab that and just secure it in. A couple of turns, and that's looking not too bad. I'll just remove that waste. For the rib then, I'm using some trout line super long stripped quill. It's brown, and I've got one out the packet here. As you can see, well, you might not be able to see, but these are fantastic lengths. Probably don't need it so much, but unlike the Polish quills, these are a little bit more brittle. So before I tie it in, what I like to do is just dampen it down on my tongue. Going to remove any sort of waste just at the edge there, and then I can tie that in like so. Now, once I've got these elements in place, I'm going to come up my fly in open turns, and I'm going to stop it approximately half a centimetre from the eye of the hook. Now I'm going to tie in my post at this point, and what I'm using for the post is some ultra dry yarn. Sorry, spit it out, Lindsay. And again, it's from Fish On. I like this stuff. I used to use Aero Wing a lot, but I've kind of gone right over now to using the ultra dry wing. I wish they'd called it something else easier to pronounce, but they didn't. So when it comes out, it's a lot thicker than this, and I've simply split it in half. And what I want to do is lay it onto the shank like so, and then I'm going to get a couple of turns just to hold it into place. Now, I don't want that like a blunt point. I want that to help that with my taper. So what I'm going to do is just trim it at an angle like so. I'll get another couple of turns just to start it on its way, and then just try and keep the fibres in place like so. You don't want any of them sticking out on your fly. Then come all the way down to the butt section. So that's looking okay. Don't be worrying about the post at this point. It just, if you leave it flat down like that, it keeps it out your way while you're working your rib and your body. And the body I'm going to be using is some, again, it's from Troutstalker, and it's natural pale possum. Very thin, delicate dubbing. I don't know how well you can see it, but it's very delicate, and it'll dub really easily onto my thread and keep a nice thin profile while still maintaining that little buggy looking body. Just dress that up like so, and then I can come around the body all the way up. It's quite a thin body, and then as I get up where I've tied my post in, you can see the taper starts to form, and it looks really nice. Okay, again, I forgot what it's called. The Peacock Herl, sorry. The Peacock Herl is a very delicate material, and what we want to do is just get a little bit of super glue on that to help adhere it to the body and protect it. Brown trout especially can have some sharp teeth, and this is designed for early season. You're more than likely going to catch some bigger trout when they're out on the prowl. So just a little bit of super glue up the edge of the quill, then you can bring it round just like a normal rib. If you've not got these longer quills that I've got here, with a shorter quill, I would certainly recommend that you use your hackle pliers. You'll get much more control, and you're less likely to pull it and snap it. But I can see the super glue sinking into the body there, holding this rib in place, which is exactly what I wanted. Then as I get up to meet my thread, I can cross that over like so. I'm going to pull my wing back at this point and bring my thread in front of it. Once you've got 2 or 3 turns, that just pulls away, no problem. Now, before I go on, what I need to do is add a little bit of wax to my thread, and I'm just going to do that now. And then what I can do is concentrate on forming my post. So I want to get a little ramp here just to keep the post kicked up, and then I'm going to put a few turns in just to make my post stand up like so. And that's looking not too bad. And at this point I can move it slightly in the vise, as all the work's going to take place up here. Now the next thing I want to do is catch in my first wing, which is going to be Partridge, by the tip. So again, I need my hackle pliers just to grab the tip, then I can use my fingers to brush that out like so. And what I'm going to do is dampen my thumb and forefinger to wet that tip down. So you see I've got the tip nice and wet, and what I want to do is catch it in at the base there, and then I'm going to come around. It's a bit fiddly this, but it's certainly worth the effort. Just keep slicking it all back like so, bringing that hackle up, and then once you're convinced you've got that tied in, you can bring your thread back to the bottom. Now if you've got any excess on your tip here, just come in at this point and take it away. Just being very careful, don't want to cut the wrong thing, as I do very often. And next I'm going to work on my thorax. So again, I'm just going to lick my thumb and forefinger, slick all that up, get all them fibres out the way. You don't want to trap any of them in. So for the thorax, I'm going a little tiny bit darker. I'd have gone darker still, but I don't have any material darker than this, and I'm going for the Troutstalkers Natural Boosted. I mean, it's not quite the same as what John's used, but it'll do for government work. I'm sure it'll still catch me plenty of fish. And I'm just going to dub that on. Again, doesn't need to be dubbed on particularly hard. The spikier the better sometimes, I find, with thoraxes. Dress it up a little bit. I'm going to bring my thread to the front of the fly where the eye is, and then simply come all the way back, tight up against the post, round to the other side, and then any excess I've got I can just come in with my fingers and remove that. And on my last turn I'm going to come around the back of the post like so. Now I know it's a fiddly looking operation, but you know, if John Tyzak's got it in his box, that's good enough for me. I've tied about a dozen of these now, just in case. Just in case I get the chance to go fishing. Now, there is another wing, and it's CDC. Now, you can use a tool to make a CDC dub, but what I've done is I've got two feathers here. I've got a clip. Now, the reason I'm doing it this way and not the proper way, or what people would discern as the proper way, is because I cannot for the life of me find the bit where I can just force my CDC in. So all I'm going to do is I've got two plumes. I'm going to clip it on like so, and then I can come in with my scissors and just remove the stems. And then what that does is leaves me with a clip loaded with CDC. Next, I'm going to split my thread, and that's the one thing I'd say about the fish on Ultimate Tying Silk. It splits really easy. When it flattens out, you can get a needle in, no problem, and you get a nice big split thread loop. Then I can add my CDC, like so, and spin that up. Well, with the latest government announcements, it looks like we're all going to get out fishing come the 1st of April, which suits me fine because my club doesn't allow any fish until the 1st of April, so it's just worked out perfect really. So I've got my CDC dub up, and I'm going to bring that round as I would a normal wing. Just working it up the post, and then I can rest it there. Then I could use the little handle that I've created here, but I'm actually going to bring in my hackle pliers again. Just gives me that little bit more control. And this is the secondary wing. So the Jingler's a great fly actually. It's really effective early season and often brings up the bigger fish. It's not a small fly. It's a big, ungainly looking thing, and I've actually done a video on the Jingler, which I'll stick up in the information bar there for you to have a look at. But this is a great idea that John's had, a combination of the two. So I'm going to bring my thread around, trapping in that stalk at the base of my post, like so. And I'll just leave the hackle plier on, and then I'm going to use my hands to create a whip finish around the post. The whip finish tool I use is too small to go over such a mass, so just use my fingers and it's just as effective. And once I've got that in place, I'm going to tilt my vise so I can see exactly where I am, remove my thread, and at the same time remove my stock. Then with the tiniest amount of super glue, I want to just touch on where the stock and the thread came away, and that's that secured. And that's looking pretty good. And then all I've got to do is trim my posts. Now I've got a couple of friends that have been tying up clink hammers, and some of their posts they've just left them this size, but the problem with leaving such a big post is it just lies sideways on the water. You should always trim it down so that it will sit how it should sit. And as you can see, that's before I've even brought in my dubbing brush. It's looking pretty scruffy, so I just like to touch it up, and there we go. Now on the post that John originally put, somebody called it the Jingle Hammer, and I liked that. It's really cool, so I'm going to keep that name. And thanks John Tyzak for the pattern. I hope you all enjoyed that, and if you haven't subscribed to the channel, I would really appreciate your support. Make sure you click that button before you go, and I'll see you all next time. Now for the rib, what I'm going to be using is some of these trout line super long stripped quill. They're really good. They're a fantastic length, and if I can find the one I took out of the packet. No, God, I'm having a friggin' nightmare today.